Coming up on TekThing, Raspberry Pi hole. It makes ads disappear. Registering your quad in FLIR's Vue, Synology's latest Play NAS, affordable GPUs for your gaming machine, and more. It's all coming up on TekThing. If you get something useful out of this episode of TekThing, please consider contributing to support the show at patreon.com/TekThing. We're brought to you by viewers just like you.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we make technology behave.
At least on the good days.
I hope it's a good day.
It is a good day. On the bad days, though, we learn something, so they're good too.
That's true. As long as I don't break my tech.
And if life hands you a pile of poo, turn it into fertilizer.
Poo emojis.
I get giddy towards the end of the year.
So it is almost the end of the year.
Yeah.
So of course we're seeing a ton of articles online about
Top
the best
lists.
of, top 10s. Yeah. So you pointed us to one over on VentureBeat.
This is always so fascinating. VentureBeat wrote up Google's top tech searches in 2015, iPhone 6s, Samsung Galaxy S6, and the Apple Watch.
Okay.
There it is. The iPad Pro, the LG G4, the Samsung Galaxy Note 5, the Galaxy J5, the HTC One M9, the Nexus 6P, and the Surface Pro 4 rounded
cool.
it all out.
Okay.
And if you've never gone to Google's trends, the year end, what they call the year in search 2015, it's really revealing. Because you look at like, oh, water on Mars, 10 million, okay, 10 million science nerds,
Wow.
246 million rugby nerds, Star Wars, 155 million searches, Paris Under Attack, 897 million searches. The Volkswagen emissions scandal, 13 million, Queen Elizabeth, the longest reigning queen, 100 million searches. It says a lot about humanity and what we're curious about.
Yeah, it really does.
It really does.
Sometimes it makes me feel better about humanity, and sometimes it does not.
Sometimes it just confuses us. Dennis writes in, hey Patrick and Shannon, I wanted to share a cool use with Raspberry Pi I recently found, www.pi-hole.net. Very simple, one line of code. Keep up the great work, Dennis. Dennis, this is fascinating, because you go to
That's weird.
the Pi-hole website, it's curl-l install.pi-hole.net. Can you remember the tube? No, the vertical one.
Pipe.
Pipe.
Yes,
I never
it's
remember
piping
pipe.
one command over to another command. So you're piping curl over to bash.
Tilde I can remember, pipe I can't, but if you scroll down, what does it say right there, Shannon?
So it says hardware ad blocking. So piehole.net says hardware ad blocking and why spend $149 on ad trap when you can spend $35 on a Raspberry Pi. You just need to fresh install a Raspbian on a Pi B, a B Plus, or a Pi 2, and then you can type in one line of code. And it's a very simple line of code that downloads a bash script from GitHub that automatically downloads and sets up the software that you need. And then that software checks a list of over 1.6 million ad-serving domains to block.
It's crazy, and that list is up from like
cool.
900,000. And if you've never seen the ad trap's a really cool idea. It's adtrap.com. You know, they do a service for cell phones, but it's $130 down from $160, and essentially does the exact same thing. Once it's built, you use the eye holes. I bought an eye hole at the Apple store. Once it's built, use the Pi-hole's IP address as the DNS for your computers, your smartphones, whatever it is you want to block ads on. Internet 101 moment, the DNS server is the thing with the host name you type into a browser, say google.com, that converts the domain name server converts that into an IP address for that URL server, like
8.8.8.8.
Well, that's their DNS server, but like if you want to go to google.com, it's 216.58.208.78, but nobody can remember the IP address for everything, so we went with URLs.
English speak.
English speak. But it's a pretty cool project, and people seem to like it. It seems to work really, really well.
That's cool.
Yeah. So if you're looking for something to do with your Raspberry Pi, create a black hole.
It's a neat perk of having a Raspberry Pi. Have a black hole.
A Raspberry Pot Pie. I'm hungry now. At Rev Myers tweets, running an i7 470-70K. I think we got the tweet for this one in there. Is there a graphics card for less than $150 that would benefit for gaming and video quality? I'm not editing videos.
Oh yeah, especially for 1080p gaming. So NVIDIA's GeForce GTX 950 sells for $150. AMD's Radeon R7 370 is $125, and the GTX 750 Ti, so nice Ti model, sells for under $110 or so. So just make sure that you're looking for a 2 GB model, not a 1 gig model. All of them will spank the 3D graphics and the Intel HD graphics 4600 into your CPU. And we'd go with the GTX 950, which is a really healthy jump in performance.
Yeah, over the 750. Like last year's $150 card, the 750 Ti is this year's $100 card. The 950 is pretty awesome. The 370 kind of falls in between there.
Yeah.
360's kind of power consuming for the performance you get. But yeah, any of these cars, even that $100 750 Ti will blow. Yes.
It's good stuff.
It'll make a huge difference.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And of course, if you guys have any questions about graphics cards, especially because we're both graphics card nerds, then you can always email us, ask@tekthing.com.
Quadcopters and drones did not make that big list from Google, but the CTA thinks there's going to be 400,000 drones sold this holiday season. The FAA says it's going to be 1 million. We've got FLIR's Vue thermal camera for commercial UASs in-house. And hey, there's the impending launch of the FAA's drone registry, which is probably going to look a little something like, oh, where did it go? There it is. Oh, wait. We'll have that on the 21st. And by the way, it's going to cost $5. The Unmanned Aircraft Systems Registration System will go, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, we're firing up Drone Fest. Our resident drone expert, Darren Kitchen's here. Dude, how irritated are you by this?
I'm not.
Okay, why?
Yeah, because the FAA is just trying to make people, trying to educate them, trying to say like, hey, you might want to know the rules before you start flying, and if we mandate that you have to register, and part of the registration process is going through this like know before you fly campaign, then there's a pretty good chance you'll know what you're doing.
The know before you fly campaign pretty much comes down to quit flying unmanned aerial vehicles in front of jet airplanes.
Yes, if you stay 5 miles outside of airports under 400 feet and don't fly it over crowds, you're pretty much good.
Right.
They've just added some extra stuff now.
So who has to register at this point?
Basically, any craft under 55 pounds or about 25 kilos and over 250 grams. And it's really interesting the way that they came out with that math.
So we're not going to get into the math right now, but most drones are going to, or quadcopters, or any
SUAS, small unmanned aerial systems.
So if I have a remote-controlled plane, technically I have to register it now.
Yeah, and actually it brings up very interesting questions about whether or not kites need to be registered, frisbees.
I have kites that weigh over 255 grams.
Yeah, so we'll see. There's a lot to be left in the interpretation, and they've even spelled it out. If you read the entire 200-page new rules, it spells this out. The task force that was developed to kind of come up with these sane rules, this task force made up of industry people like DJI and 3D Robotics and GoPro and the Airline Association and a bunch of other key members debated on this and brought up those exact points. They're like, look, you know, we don't want to be making you have to register a paper airplane.
So the flip side of this, though, is one of the chieftains at the FAA basically have said, not only you, who I actually would qualify as an aviator, but I am an aviator because I own a drone that weighs over 255 grams. I'm an aviator, gonna get a cool hat and a scarf. But you know, that you have to learn the rules of the skies, and it's kind of like on one hand I get what they're trying to say, but on the other hand,
well, they didn't have to say this. Back in 1983, an FAA memorandum ratified voluntary guidelines set forth by the American Aeronautics Academy, which was a club that came up with these great rules that are stay under 400 feet, 5 miles away from airports and not over crowds. And by doing so, the FAA acknowledged, hey, you enthusiasts with your model aircraft, have fun, and your rules, we recognize those are great. It was not until September or October of this year that they actually just pulled that memorandum because they're like, well, we're going to come up with our own rules. And the difference is, 20 years ago, you were like flying, you know, something that looked like a biplane or something. And it was like your granddad with a nitro motor and things of that, and it was a much smaller knit community. And now you go down to your local big box store, you can buy something shiny and white that you can fly right into the White House.
I can order one from Amazon, and someone did actually fly one on
and
the White
that's
House
the
lawn.
thing is they want accountability. So when it does land on the White House lawn, that they can check out, oh, hey, the serial number says it's Bob's.
And so it's funny. So everybody with a drone over 255 grams has to register. You are registered, then you get a number, and then your number is supposed to be put on all of your drones. Doesn't matter how long you've owned the unmanned aerial system or unmanned aerial vehicle.
There's no getting grandfathered into this by having one beforehand. You have until February 16th, I believe.
Right.
And if you just got one for Christmas, you got to register it before you fly.
So hopefully that website will be up on the 21st, or we'll all be in violation.
Well, I'm sure it'll be crashing by the 21st.
One would hope, but I mean,
pun.
so here's the thing that kind of fascinates me. I have my number. If I fly my drone with my number on the White House lawn, presuming that I've given correct information, the FAA or the FBI or everybody else who wants to get involved can come knocking on my door. I won't even get into the fact that it would be really easy for me to write down Darren Kitchen's number, who I saw down at the flying field, and put it on the drone that I crash into somebody's house. What are the penalties for flying without registration or being unregistered?
The federal penalties are something like $250,000. The civil ones are something around $27,000. So there's a lot of penalties here. And actually, you bring up the really good point, which is where they're totally missing the boat here, which is typically the FAA, they certify airframes, they register craft, right? Now, a pilot's license is a totally separate thing. We're not talking about licensing here. I'm not being licensed as a drone operator. I am registering my craft. And yet, unlike an aircraft where I get a unique tail number, I've been given one number that I have to put now on my 20 some odd drones that I own. I feel like they've really missed out here.
Would you rather have all of your hardware registered?
Excuse me? No. Actually, some of my hardware will not be registered. This I built as soon as the task force came up with their proposed guidelines.
Magic 255 gram number.
It was 250. So this comes out to 246 grams all up, and that's with the battery and everything. And actually, in the proposed interpretation of these, they used the terms maximum takeoff weight, which some could posit would include the thrust available, saying that, even though a 100-gram craft generates 250 grams of thrust, it could take off at 249 grams. So anyway, the point is the new rules say basically all up weight is the, I forget the official term, but it means if you get a craft 249 grams, you don't have to register, and this is a full-featured racing quad. So I'm happy about
35
that.
miles an hour?
Yeah, and this isn't going to really hurt anyone. I mean, it would probably.
Let me drive it into you, and you tell me whether or not it hurts.
No, I'll let you drive a Hubsan, a little 100-gram quad into me. Not this guy. But no, I think it makes sense. Something like this really should be registered because this could wreck your day.
Yes.
And I think that it's good to get people educated because I'm so tired of seeing videos of idiots with. Sorry, it's always a DJI Phantom flying over an airport. I'm so tired of that. So I'm hoping that this helps that. But I feel like there's a lot to be said about little quadcopters like this, or maybe twice the size, twice the weight, but still racing quadcopters that are flying through the trees. Not in the national airspace, but there's an entire sport of FPV racing that this could, it doesn't really put a damper on it. You just go and register and Bob's your uncle. But
yeah, and basically everybody, it's
just annoying because it's going to get hacked. It's going to be like OPM all over again. And then every pilot's out there, home address, their home address, email address, and name. So at least they don't want your phone number. Stop robocalling me.
That's a start. Let's talk about FLIR's Vue. It's a thermal imaging camera for small unmanned aerial vehicles or unmanned aerial systems. We got a chance to fly this out front. It is comparable, would you call it, say it's a little bit heavier, comparable maybe to strapping a GoPro onto your system?
It's a little bit heavier. I mean, I got a GoPro on the front of this guy, and you can kind of feel the difference in weight there. It's not much. I mean, the kind of craft that you would put this on is not going to impact its flight time too much. You really wouldn't. Actually, you probably couldn't put it on something like this. You would put it on something like this Zhugong Pro here with the gimbal and everything, and that would allow you to pan and tilt it and fly it over a roof and be able to see where the hot spots are and things of that nature. And that's what it's for. It's for agriculture. It's for roof inspection. It's for medical. I'm sure this will be really useful come the time when we need to do rescue.
Well, yeah, I was going to say rescue or searching for people on your property, because a human being on a cold night glows like a firework, or a human being in the warehouse glows like a firework. So
and then we just strap a 30-06 to it. Never mind.
Let it go.
Okay.
Let it go.
Put that one
Then you'll
down.
have to register your drone and your face.
Hey, at least when I buy this thing, I don't have to have a 3-day waiting period and a background check. I'm just
That's
saying.
coming.
Just saying.
Wait till the states get involved. So good to go for helicopter. I mean, it's kind of funny. So it's got sort of a standard GoPro mount on it. Runs off of 5 volts. You had to hack the wiring harness a little bit to get it to run.
Right. What they provide is this, which is made for a Pixhawk, which is based on APM, which is an open source flight controller. It's most notably used in things like 3D robotics. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but whatever. It also supports any flight controller that supports Mavlink, which I believe there's support in CC3D, and I'm kind of going a little rat's hole here, but basically, this supports a lot of open stuff to do some cool things as far as controlling the camera if you have aux ports available.
Having known you for a few years, this is maybe the second time I've heard you be less than enthusiastic about an open spec.
I love open source until it tries to fly itself into the BNSF train yard and ram into a BMW, but that's a different story. The cable that you want if you're not doing that, not controlling it, because controlling it is actually really easy from your smartphone. There's a Bluetooth, there's an app that speaks Bluetooth to it. You can set up, flip horizontally, flip vertically, choose what color palette you want. We did some footage where we used not the Arctic, but the I call it the Ghost Hunters look. But if you want, you could have black and white. This is the cable that it's interesting. It's a mini cable, but it's a 10-pin. Ooh, special. And with that power, they say very specifically it has to be like 5 volts. Like it's not going to be happy if you give it more than that. So make sure you use this or a BEC.
I mean, it's funny. Like they started doing the $249 FLIR ones last year. We've seen some of the other cell phone-based competitors, but this is a $2,500 piece of hardware that is extraordinarily sensitive.
They've got some less expensive ones if you want to deal with quarter VGA resolution.
Right.
It's surprising how expensive it is just for VGA, and I think they can't really do anything more than that because of export restrictions and all sorts of fun things there.
So, one last thought before you go. How was flying with a 13mm lens?
Not the most fun. I wouldn't recommend it. But again, it's not really made for. I think actually most people aren't going to be flying these around with goggles like that. That's really for like FPV racing where you want it to be immersive. You'll probably find like the giant controller with the big like 7-inch display and the huge hood over it. And agriculture, things of that nature. That's more for fun.
So thumbs up, it works. The thermal imagery looks fantastic. What's coming up on Hack 5 this week?
Oh man, well, we are actually looking at an amazing Kickstarter project called the HoloVect from a member of Chat Realm, if you're into that, who shows us basically holograms. I don't want to actually use the word hologram because that's the incorrect term, but it's like, help me Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. Check that out, because it's real and it's not using steam or anything. It's an image floating in space, projected with lasers.
Lasers.
Crazy. So hak5.org.
Shannon, I would ask you to step into the screen, but it could injure us all.
Yeah.
You pre-ordered the Gear View. Shannon stole your Gear VR.
Yeah, she did.
Oh, there you are. Hey, what's up? I was playing games.
What games can you play on the Shannon Gear VR? So a step up. Okay, a step up from the cardboard.
Yes, a huge step up from the cardboard.
Gear VR powered by Oculus. Somewhere inside of here, if I pull the right switch,
you
the phone
pull
will
that,
explode out.
and then you take your phone out. Now, of course, this only works with certain phones right now. This is a Samsung product, so it's made for their top-of-the-line flagship phones, so the S6 family as well as the Note. And now it's telling me that I need to unlock my phone and things of that nature. But this is great.
Because you had the dev kit.
I had the original dev kit, and the resolution was crap, but I just had to get it because I met those guys at Showstoppers before Facebook bought Oculus Rift or any of that stuff, and seeing was believing. I put that thing on in Team Fortress 2 and immediately needed one. So I got the dev kit, but I must say I didn't have that much fun with it because it is such a hack. You needed a beefy gaming rig and all these SDKs and all this stuff, and so it's cool to have taken a step back from that project for 2 years and come back at it and say like, oh, there's a consumer edition now. And they've done a really great job with the ecosystem. So you mentioned Google Cardboard. It's it's not as hacky or as kind of fragmented
Right.
as Google Cardboard. They did a great job developing an app store, an ecosystem for this.
And everything is controlled by the touches on the side of the goggles.
Right, so you strap this guy on and then you pop your phone in, and then there's a little thing here where you can swipe forward, back, left, and right. You got a back button and you can tap it and stuff. Otherwise, they recommend a Bluetooth gaming pad. There's a short list of ones that are compatible with it.
What's the game you've been playing on that?
I've been playing Land's End, and it's kind of like Myst meets Zelda Ocarina of Time. The graphics are pretty good, but
choice.
mainly it's like it's a very short game, but it's a lot of fun. And it's one of those things where after you've had this on for 40 minutes, or once you've been immersed in a experience, it's really weird to take it off and realize you've been teleported. Yeah.
He said it, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, Darren Kitchen has been teleported.
Yeah. It's $100.
$100?
$100.
Thumbs up, thumbs down?
Thumbs up if you already own one of the Samsung flagship phones that it supports, because it's inexpensive and it's, I think, a lot more refined than you'll find some of the Google Cardboard adapters or whatever have you that you can find on Amazon. But if you don't have a Samsung, don't bother, because we're going to see a plethora of this at CES.
4K, VR, and the Internet of Things. That's coming to you in just a few weeks. Darren, thanks, dude.
Thank you. It's great to be on after a year.
It hasn't been that long.
No, you're right. It's only been 50 episodes.
I think I've been chided, people. I'm going to go soothe Darren. In our never-ending search of new and exciting NAS devices, my partner in crime, Shannon, a.k.a. Snubs, has the DiskStation DS216play, one of Synology's latest NAS machines, in $350 on Amazon. 2-drive unit.
Yep.
Is that 350 with?
Excuse me.
Or without drives?
It's without, so
Okay.
you have to buy the drives separately, but it is 2 bay, and you can do up to 16 terabytes.
16
per volume.
terabytes if
Yeah.
you can find 2 8-terabyte drives.
Yeah, or you could do 2 8 terabyte
It's
drives.
future-proof.
Exactly. So yeah, it is. It's a future-proofing machine. That's the whole point of this thing. You can do either 3.5-inch or 2.5-inch discs. And the coolest thing about this is it's made for entertainment and it's future-proofing. So you can transcode. This is what's nifty about it. Transcode 4K, UHD, and H.265 file content on the fly.
Should you be able to find any?
Should you be able to find any? Yeah, that was the problem I had when I was checking this out, was
Right.
where can I find these files to test? Because we don't have recording products in here. They're so expensive still. Recording products for H.265.
Right.
So all of our stuff still does 264. So we should probably explain what that is, and I'll get to that in a second. So basically what this means when I say transcoding is it means that you can stick a bunch of H.265 files on your NAS, which are video files, and you can stream those to your mobile devices, and it'll just transcode them from 4K down to 1080p for you so that they are playable on other devices, even if your device doesn't support H.265, which a lot of devices currently don't. So it is future-proofing in that sense. And of course, if you wanted to, you can also just stream 4K to, like, for example, your 4K TV if you have one of those at home too. So it's not going to drop everything to 1080p for you.
And we saw this point, like, if you want to stream like regular MPEG-4s, MKV files, it
Yeah.
supports all of the
yeah.
usual
Yeah,
suspects.
they actually have, if you want to toss it into my computer, they have a whole bunch of information down here on their site that says what kind of transcoding they do. The 216play is 4K Group 2, and it lets you know which kind of operating systems you can use and how it's going to work with those H.265 video formats.
Right.
So how it's going to transcode them for you. And luckily, it does a really good job of practically all of the different operating systems. So with this explanation of H.265, basically that means high efficiency video coding, or HEVC, and it's the successor to H.264, which is like MPEG-4, which is AVC, which we've gotten really used to because that's pretty much what you find
everybody
everywhere.
uses.
Yeah, it's what everybody
Right.
uses. It's like USB, and how just now we're seeing that change to USB-C.
Right.
So not everybody is on board yet, but we're starting to see it.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of H.265 was like, cable companies were like, we need like 3 channels to carry 4K video,
Yeah.
and somebody's like, we'll do better compression, so you can fit
Yeah,
4K
exactly.
in the space of a 1080p video or multiple 1080p videos in the space of a current 1080p video
Right.
in MPEG-4.
And it's the same bit rate.
Yeah.
So it's not going to,
Or at least in the neighborhood.
Yeah, at least in the neighborhood. And it supports up to 8192 by 4320, which includes 8K UHD.
Should it ever be finalized and shipped?
That's
Well, it may.
it's pretty major future-proofing.
Yeah, well, it seems like pretty major future-proofing now, but in 2 years, who knows what insanity that's going to be cooked up at CES. The 16K television is the only way to watch television.
And of course, I know you guys love the specs. This DS216play, it has a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core CPU, 1 gig of RAM, which is enough to run the NAS, personally. You don't need a lot of RAM in a NAS. And with speed tests, I actually did a few different speed tests just to make sure that I was getting what they said that I would get. So on their site, they actually quote around 80 megabits to 90 to 100 or so, or even up to 107.
Is that like backing up or downloading from?
This, for both, it's around that same ballpark. So when we were testing this, we did it on our editing machine, which has really fast disk speeds on our computer. And luckily, I got pretty average speeds to what they were saying. So when I was downloading, you can notice that I wasn't taking up my entire CPU, so I know I wasn't like bogged down by any of the computer specs, but I was getting around 98.7 megabits per second, and this was for a download. Yeah, megabytes, sorry. And this was for a download, and then for an upload, I was getting about 84.5 megabytes per second. So it was definitely in the ballpark of what they were averaging whenever I was reading up on the specs as well. It is a little bit slow writing to it as compared to our older NAS. That might be because of the kind of videos that we were...
The older NAS has how many drives?
Yeah, that's true. It has 8.
That's a big advantage for writing too.
Yeah. So it was still pretty comparable. So generally, I had very fast speeds. We were really happy with that. When it came to streaming from the NAS, I did test a couple of simple .avi files, and these were just like podcast videos.
Right.
So, normal stuff that I'm going to stream. I also streamed an H.265 encoded test file. Luckily, I found one on the internet. I had a lot of issues getting either one playing on all of my devices, which is most likely a cause of a connection issue in our network. But I did download the DS File app, and I was able to successfully play both files streaming to my iPad.
Okay.
Looked pretty good. The H.265 one had a little bit of compression issues, most likely because of our connection again on the network.
And it was a pretty huge video to start with.
It was a huge video, and however, it still looked really good when it didn't get pixelated in the middle of the video. The beginning and the end looked excellent. So it definitely worked on the iPad, and the iPad doesn't do H.265.
So we know it transcodes.
Which is great. It definitely transcodes. And the thing also comes with a couple of different ports on the back. So you have 2.0 and you have 3.0 USB on the back. So it lets you connect external storage if you want to. You have the transfer feeds of speeds of 3.0,
nice.
And it's DLNA certified too. So you can use this to work with other DLNA certified compliant devices.
Like your television.
Exactly, streaming to your television, streaming to your Roku box if you wanted to. Luckily, the 216play also runs off Synology's DSM operating system, which is why I don't have this plugged in, because you've already seen the operating system, so you're not necessarily going to see anything new. So if you've used a Synology NAS in the past, then there's no learning curve needed there. You can just plug it in and get going.
Right.
So I liked it. I really liked it. I like how small it is. It's very quiet whenever you're actually streaming videos from it. And generally, I think it's a great choice for an entertainment system or something that you can feed all of your entertainment off of.
If one of the drives goes, are you going to lose all of your data?
You can RAID it.
Okay.
So not necessarily.
Interesting.
Yeah, you have that option, just like all of their other NASs.
So basically, you would do RAID 1 in that case, and it would mirror. Got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea at all. Definitely recommend rating. We should talk about rating on the show. We haven't really done a segment about rating. We should explain it.
That's because I was traumatized by RAID in my youth. If you have a question about media streaming or transcoding, send that question to ask@tekthing.com, and it will receive our fervent, dedicated attention, because you guys are awesome. You ladies are awesome too. All you people are awesome. Hey everybody, I got a favor to ask you. If you got a minute, it would be awesome if you could review TekThing on iTunes or whichever podcatcher you prefer. A thumbs up on the YouTube feed is helpful too. And hey, if you haven't subscribed, we would appreciate it if you would. If you need the RSS feed, it's at tekthing.com. You can search for us on iTunes. And if there's someplace we should be listed that we aren't, please let me know. And thanks to everybody that donates at patreon.com/TekThing. You can donate however much you want every episode, and every little bit counts, because as we bring all of us together, bring it a little bit, we can keep bringing the show out to you each and every week. And if you can't donate, that is okay. Please keep taking the time to send us your questions, your tips, and to share the show with your friends and family. It all makes this possible.
That's right, it does.
It does.
Thank you so much, everybody. And hey, we got some viewer questions.
Best viewer question ever. I was shocked when I saw this. You got to read this one.
Okay, I will. This one is from JY. He says, "Hi, Patrick and Shannon. I need your gift ideas for my girlfriend. She likes dancing and yoga. I love your show, and happy holidays." JY from Los Angeles.
Yoga pants. Just don't get the size wrong. Nothing worse than giving the woman you love the wrong, or man, the wrong size yoga pants. Lululemon and Prana are pretty well known. Athleta, Nancy Rose Performance. She was, I guess, a gymnast that started doing exercise clothes for women. Sweaty Betty, all great names. Even Old Navy Gap, you're laughing at me. Old Navy Gap and Target stock half decent yoga gear. Actually pretty decent yoga gear. Give her time at her favorite studio. My sister-in-law teaches yoga. She loves Yoga Glow, which is this yogaglow.com. It's from the Guyan people. It's an online video service, $18 a month for all the yoga you can stand to stream.
I really like how Patrick knows so much more about yoga than I do.
Yoga is a great way to keep your body from disintegrating as you get older, especially if you've done terrible things to innocent joints. And also, my wife practices yoga, so I look at the catalogs as they
Do you ever yoga with her?
No.
Do you ever
No.
I don't know. How do you yoga?
How
I've
do
never
you
done yoga.
You've never done yoga?
No.
We should get you in a
'Cause
vinyasa yoga program.
I play video games.
Yeah.
Is there a yoga version in, VR yoga?
You know, you could just stand there and do what they do on the screen, or actually go to a yoga class.
Nah.
Nah.
I would rather eat my popcorn and chips and sit on my sofa.
It's gonna be great to watch you be like, when you're older, like,
oh yeah, I'm gonna have a
Shannon
cane.
going to the anime show.
And we got a rant of the week, and this is awarded to Jim, who writes, "As a proud member of the people who hate vertical videos and the knobs who take them club, I'm wondering why there isn't a default setting in every smartphone that prevents vertical orientation when the camera is in video mode. This could be unselected in settings for users who explicitly want this orientation for specific use cases, like Vine, etc., but would otherwise gently steer novices away from this evil practice. In any case, is there a setting in Android, or is there a utility or camera app that has a setting to prevent the video orientation from changing from horizontal? In other words, can I make my Android smartphone camera always take horizontal video, ignoring its physical orientation during recording, the same as a dedicated video camera would? Thanks, from Jim." I love this question. And you stop that right now, or I will punch your phone. Just kidding. But seriously, vertical.
You're not kidding
come
even a
on,
little bit.
People. So there is an app. It's
Vertical.
called Horizon.
Vertical, horizontal.
There's an app available on Google Play and iOS. It's called Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
It's available for free, but it does cost $180 if you want to upgrade, if you don't want a watermark in your videos.
So basically, it's $1.80 for the program.
Yeah, because who wants a watermark in their videos? I mean, really? Unless you want to crop it around it in editing, I guess you could do that, but they probably don't want me to say that to you. Right. And it does limit your resolution to 1920 by 1080 on my Nexus P, which I can record normally via the Google camera app in 4K. So it's
has
limiting.
its limitations.
Yeah, it's cutting it down. It has a few caveats. But I should also mention, why do we have to have apps to make people shoot in horizontal video? Like, our eyes are this way for a reason. This is how we have been made. This way does not work right. This way does. Like, you look like this. If we needed to see everything up and down, we would have like 4 eyes. Eyes up here and eyes down here and eyes over here and eyes over there.
Or it's just convenient to
how
hold
we
the
were
phone that way, and people just hit the button while they're holding it that way.
Well, the people are lazy.
The people are lazy, said she who refuses to yoga because it will interrupt her popcorn habits.
I love popcorn, man. All right, and we also got a tweet, and this one is from @Virgilio I like your name. @Patrick Norton, any suggestion for a compact amplifier that you can connect to a computer, which then outputs to RCA and speaker wire speakers?
Oh yeah. I've had pretty good luck with LePai's LP2020 amps, see them from Amazon. They're not real fancy, but they work. They sound great for the garage. They're a great entry-level amp because they cost like $15 to $25 depending on what time of year you buy them. If you want to really step things up a lot, NAD's revamp of the 3020 has fantastic reviews, but we're talking about $400 for that amp. If you don't mind taking up a bunch more space, a used stereo receiver from a garage sale will often sound solid, and they make great monitor stands too.
Cool.
Because you can put your monitor on top of the big 70s, 80s era integrated stereo unit.
Those are great. Back in that era.
That era, some
when
of
I
us.
was just a babe.
You were just a small child.
That about wraps up this episode of TekThing, but remember, once in a while, put away your phone, step away from the screen, close your laptop, do something analog, like go see a band, or do yoga, I guess, but go see a band.
I saw Scott Bradley's Postmodern Jukebox.
In Portland?
In Portland.
Oh, that's so cool.
And Luria was there too.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Hi, Loria.
Hi, Luria.
That's awesome, dude. Was it a good time?
It was a fantastic show. If you get a chance to see Scott Bradley's Postmodern Jukebox, or if you haven't seen their incredible videos on YouTube, they're awesome. Anybody who can pull off well, they're just, if you don't like big band or jazz or klezmer or anything like that, you might not enjoy them as much as I do. But I really suggest you look for their version of Red Hot Chili Peppers' Give It Away.
Ooh, cool.
It's epic. Epic.
Awesome.
I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing. Pretty simple.
Check out my new shirt.
Don't look at me.
You know where it's from?
No.
What?
So many cultural.
Everyone tweet him if you know what this shirt's from. You get it, right? Oop, you're gone.
So confused.
He totally doesn't get it.
So many.
It's okay. I'll look it up for you. I'll show you. I'll show you a video.
So many cultural references.
From Doctor Who.
But you know what? Oh, well, I've never gotten through a second episode of Doctor Who. I'll try again. I'll try again.
You could. Yeah, it's hard. The first season's a little tough to get through.
They're all tough to get through.
Once you get into like Tenet, and then what's the next guy's name? Matt, I think.
I'll try it again.
And the newest Doctor.
Maybe I'm finally old enough to appreciate it.